Pigeons 420. Mr. Grow It. And Rob from Cannabis Lifestyle TV. From the Stash Podcast.
This show is brought to you by Dutchpro USA. Nutrients made for growers by growers. From the base nutrients to the Explode Booster. Dutchpro USA is bringing you the essentials that all growers need without the extra bottles. Visit Dutchpro USA or find their products on Amazon.com. Spider Farmer LED. One of the leaders in affordable quality LED lighting for growers. From the SF Quantum Board series to the SE Bar style LEDs. Spider Farmer has you covered without breaking the bank. Find Spider Farmer LEDs on Amazon.com. And AC Infinity. Innovators in the air game, providing state-of-the-art inline fans, tents, and more to the home grower. Visit ACinfinity.com or Amazon to pick up some of their products. And you could save money with any of these brands by checking out the discount codes below in the description.
Well, like I was saying, man, you got a lot of people who will watch our channels even. They'll watch Mr. Canuck. They'll watch Welcome to the Grow Tent. They'll watch Photosyntax. Matt Hatter I see over here on Twitch. Dude Grows. Whoever is making content, and they'll listen to the things that they say, and they'll do the things that they do. And it's not bad. It's not bad. But sometimes you don't realize there's so many other options out there. And it's nice to be able to step back and look and say, which ones would fit my style best? Which ones would fit my area and how I go about growing best? And in that sense, a lot of people will look at like Jorge Cervantes' book. I think that's a little overwhelming when you look at things like how-tos. It's information. You can scroll through it. It's a guide when you need those things to go to that chapter, but it's not the how-to. So breaking down how somebody grows on YouTube is awesome, but different variables is huge. And I think the cool thing about our podcast is we're able to switch that up and make it happen. So it's where you can talk shop, so to speak, with 3 different styles. And I love it. Even though comparable end results, Chris, I think your end product was fucking fire, but it looks like a lot of bud that I've grown where I'm like, but you're in a totally different place. And you're growing totally different. And
we're using a lot of the same shit.
Yeah,
you know,
but there's so many variables that are different. So it's like, I think we could start with Mr. Grow It. How do you normally get going? What is your growing process, your current grow process right now? So I know you've changed it over time.
Yeah, I mean, I've done so many different things over the years. I mean, I've been growing for 11 years now, come almost hitting 12 years actually. And I've done it so many different ways. And I say this in my videos so much, is there's so many different ways to grow this plant, you know, and I'm glad we're doing this episode so we can have 3 different ways or even more, because we've all done it multiple ways to do it. But right now, my current setup, I have 2 grow tents. I have a 2 foot by 4 foot grow tent, and I have a 4 foot by 4 foot grow tent. 2 different light cycles right now. I have some plants in flower on a 12-12 light cycle, and I have some plants in veg on an 18-6 light cycle. The 3 plants that I have in my 2 foot by 4 foot tent, those are on a flowering light cycle. They're on week 1 of flowering, week 2 of flowering. Those ones are being fed Dutchpro nutrients. So that's what I'm using for a nutrient line. I am using LED. I've got them over the ES180 V3 LED grow light. And they're looking great right now, but just, you know, normal Dutchpro nutrients, following their feeding chart, 2.5 dose, you know, checking the ppm and pH of the runoff, only watering when the medium is dry, kind of using that finger technique to deep down, make sure it's bone dry, lifting the grow pot, you know, just some of these standard, you know, let's say standard, but real techniques that are well known and basic, you know, some basic things on this particular grow. So, you know, that's kind of high level, kind of what I'm doing on that one. And then I have my 4x4, which I have organic, so completely different. I have 2 plants that are growing, 2 cannabis plants, 7-gallon containers. I'm using, one of them is actually reused soil as well, but craft blend, build a soil craft blend. So I'm just top dressing with the amendments. I put some Grokashi in there to top dress. I have a mulch layer going. Barley straw. I have worms in there now. I have some red wrigglers, and also some European night crawlers. So it's a completely different style of growing, right? There's no synthetic. There's no bottles in that grow at all. And those are over LEDs. Those are over the SP2000 LED grow light by Spider Farmer. But there's like a quick snapshot, you know, without getting into more granular details. I'll let you guys speak for a few. But 2 totally different styles in 2 different tents in the same grow room. So there's so many ways to do it.
Yeah, dude. That's the variety of growing honestly is fun, but it can become overwhelming when you have
Oh,
two totally different styles. Now, when you got an organic style, like I'm not growing my organic style anymore at the moment because the place I was growing at, I just don't even go there anymore. And it's to the point now where I'm kind of in my routine and I like what I'm doing. And the results that I got in the end were very, very similar. It was just a process that was different. Now, having the two separated processes, like keeping your water, let's say the pH of your water, one you don't have to nearly bother with versus the other you have to a lot. So the process is going to become more work to begin, but over time you'll get that system and the routine, so to speak, and it won't become so bad in terms of like, well, I got to do this here, this here. It's all like an organized, synergized process. For me, they're two separate places, so I didn't have to worry about it, you know? Now, P, you switched your style up. I mean, it's comparable in terms of the lighting, nutrients, everything like that, but you went from open space to a tent grow. Now, if you could just run down how you grow specifically, but also the variables that you notice between switching from the open space to the tent, because that's a big jump compared to how you had it built to specs to now it's specs that you grow into, so to speak.
yeah, yeah, 100%. I actually, briefly, I just wanted to mention, what Chris said in terms of his style, and going with the basic, you said, method of using your finger and lifting the pots. It's like basic, yes, but it's like you really have to really iron out your routine to get that confident to be able to just rely on weight and feel and touch. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it comes with time that you can just look at the pot and be like, oh, she's dry. You know what I mean? You don't need to put a meter in there. You don't need to like carve out a little bit of something. It's like, okay. And then you can kind of get used to that 50% feeling. So yeah, that comes with time. Very basic, but it does come with time. But when it comes to my style, I essentially I went wherever the wind took me at any given time, and going from open space to a tent was single-handedly the best and biggest move I had ever done. Going from trying to try to controlling a wide open space that's not sealed from the rest of the house because I'm indoors. The roof is just floorboards and smell, terpenes, moisture, everything just goes right out into the environment. And that's an issue. That's a problem. And when I switched over to a tent, it's like the effort to contain became almost zero. It's contained merely in the essence of being a tent. You zip it up and it's contained. That made a huge difference. Now, it also brought on a lot of things that I didn't expect. It's the sealed environment also means that you need to either bring in moisture or remove moisture or manipulate the heat or the temperature, because now it's a new environment, different than it was before. I felt like it was a lot easier to like run room that was in my house with just the ambient temperature of the house. I could just keep it warm based on the temperature that was in the rest of the house. A tent is now in a concealed environment. It's going to get hot in there real fast. You need to be able to circulate that air, typically with a wonderful AC Infinity T series or Cloudline T6 series, ACinfinity.com, promo code the Stash 5. It's close. It's
AC
close. Comparable.
Infinity.
It's
Yeah.
Infinity. It's in the
Stash
description.
15.
It's
still
in the
15.
description. You now need to control the
No audio
environment
here.
far higher. Huh? You're muted, P? No audio?
Nope.
When
No?
we went to that scene over there, Wink, it was wonky.
Oh, am I good now? We good?
Good
We
now.
good?
Good now.
Thanks for that, guys. And if you guys didn't know, we're actually streaming live on Twitch. All these shows are live on Twitch, so we have the ability to look over at the chat to get some kind of feedback, not only in
Thank
regards to
you.
our technical abilities, but in regards to the conversation as well. We're asking the chat what kind of grow styles they have. So don't forget, we do go live twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, roughly shortly after 12 and 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
With a live digital studio audience. Okay?
Live digital studio audience.
Okay.
Twitch.tv/From the Stash Podcast. See, that was a little bit better.
That was good.
But yeah, no, it was the best decision I made, because now I feel like I'm growing weed with a hell of a lot less effort. I've got the right equipment. I've got the right genetics. I've got the right routine. That's important. It's nothing too much different than I started from, but I'm synthetic nutrients. I run an HP Pro Mix medium, and I feed differently than Chris. Even everyone's different. I feed full strength plus 1.5. Is where I pushed things to. Went a little high with the 1.5 times nutrients because I was pushing hard. I wanted to see how much I could really get out of it. But I would definitely I stay around that full strength, following its guide. But yeah, the grow style that I have today is vastly different than the grow style I had yesterday, yesteryears, and it's merely out of just experience and confidence.
Oh yeah, dude. That's the thing. I want to circle back to go over how we started too, in terms of what our growth styles were then to now. Just compare where we are in terms of knowledge, technology, companies hooking it up and showing us love. So we try things out. Like I would never probably switch to LED had I not had a company send me an LED light to try. And I was like, oh shit, all right, that was solid. Okay, all right. So for me, it's a little different, I guess. My growth style. It is synthetic, bottle-based nutrients, mineral-based, as Vader would put it. I like that. It's more elegant. It feels better. But I'm also using LED, and I'm using cocoa. So I'm using a cocoa mix right now. I'm using Wishes and Cocoa Loco, and I'm using it for this next run. But normally I'll be using Royal Gold. They're 2 per mix, so it's pretty much just cocoa with perlite with a little bit of like aged forest minerals. Pretty minor in terms of any food that'd be in there. So I do have to feed a little bit earlier on compared to others who are in soil or in an actual cocoa mix like a Cocoa Loco. So what I'll start doing is within the first 2 or 3 weeks, I'll end up doing third strength nutrients, and then I work my way up. I never hit right away with heavy. I'll slowly build up. Same with veg. When I'm going into flower, I'll do slow nutrients, build up, boom, 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 boom. And I never get to the point where I'm going full heavy nutrients. I notice I'm rarely. I did it just this last run with Dutchpro, and it did good, but then I'm doing a little less this run, and I don't see a huge difference. We'll find out in the final product. But I just noticed that I can make them work a little more, and it seems like I get a little more out in terms of my flavor and in the end product. Maybe not yield. I could probably push it a little bit more and get more yield out of it, but that's never really my goal. I'm really focused on getting as much terpene and flavonoid as I can. Like I'm into that. So when I grow, I'll usually try to not just have my plants growing like big and bushy and solid like that. I'll try to do the low stress training. I'll try to make sure that the canopy is as even as I could get it. But when I'm doing a lot of different phenotypes, it's hard to have that even canopy. So my style in terms of not just the recipe and technology, so to speak, it varies grow to grow when I'm looking for the pheno that I have. The first run, I won't really do a whole lot of work to it. I'll kind of let the plant grow so I can see the natural characteristics. Second run, that's when I'll be like, okay, I know what she needs. She's got to get the little bend over howdy doody, and she's got to be treated different, Or the other one, it's like, all right, this is a topper. I'm topping this one for sure. As where like Headbanger, I started topping that initially, and I noticed I get wispier growth. I don't get the hardier, tighter spaces that I'm looking for. So with that, I just low stress train it. I didn't learn that until after 3 or 4 grows of having that. So it just takes time, and then with rocking Dutch Pro, it was another variable to change up. Is I was using a different line before, and I went very minimal, which is A and B, and then their add-on nutrients or their additive. Now I'm using more of a full line. So I'm not feeding quite as often, but I'm feeding a little more frequently than I was before. Before I was going like 2 times a week. Now I'm going usually 4 times a week. It just is all about how these plants are reacting to it. So how we grow, I feel like it has to slightly adapt when you're changing the cultivars. It's never going to be exactly the same every single time, because when there's a new variable that comes in, you got to work with it. The only way to keep it totally consistent is to always grow that same cultivar every single time. I've got buddies who do that. That's cool. But for me,
Variety
I'm
is
really,
king, man.
yeah, I like
Variety is king.
variety.
And you're 100% right about that. I just recently grew Holland's Hope from Dutch Passion, and it's a classic Nordic European strain, and it comes from the kind of damp, cooler climates of the Netherlands. And I brought that into my environment, my very first tent grow. That was my last one. And I put it in there with the most powerful LED light that I had. And I learned very quickly that it could not handle that kind of stress. And the leaves really started to taco. The later weeks in flower were jeopardized because she was far more stressed. So you definitely need to take into consideration your cultivar when it comes to your specific environment. You know, I would not grow it again if I didn't have either a dim, like a dim switch on my LEDs, or a lower powered LED. So yeah, definitely something that you need to take into consideration when it comes to choosing or it's establishing your grow style.
For sure, for sure. And right now I'm doing these auto flowers. So it's another variable I'm throwing in the mix. It's like, well, shit, I'm not topping any of these. And then I want to low stress train them, but then I'm also, for content purposes, I didn't low stress train some because I wanted to see, the side by side to be like, well, here's what happens when I train them a little bit. Here's what I didn't. But they're auto, so the variables are so all over the place that I can't say for sure this is exactly why. But what's cool about having the experiments as a content creator is, for one, you could document it. For two, I can go back and look at that documented piece of evidence, so to speak, and reuse that in the future. I'm like, okay, make sure I grew this one before, so let me go see what I said about it, And I've had that happen in the past, or I know other people who use it, and I'm like, hey man, go over here and watch this video. I'll give you the rundown of my grow, so that way you can see step by step how to do it. At least how I did it. You could pull things out and try it, but don't necessarily have to do every single thing I did to get the same results. The plant growth and look isn't the same as the end product. It's like I was saying, some of Chris's bud, like the chill out, or not chill out, the frozen
Curve
fuel,
stopper?
frozen fuel, that had a bud structure of some of the Scooby Doo, where I'm like, oh shit, like that. This looks very similar. It's got a comparable look to it, but we grew totally different. Like you're in a totally different environment, totally different end product, you'd think, right? But a lot of times that isn't the case. I've got buddies where slight variations, but not a ton, just depends on how you grow, I think.
100%. Chris, when it like for me, my biggest evolution has been the way I put my hands on my plants. It's the training of the plants. I've tried to evolve my garden to being able to maintain a really tight canopy, wide plants rather than tall plants. You do a bit of training, but I'm more obsessed in terms of your willingness to diversify. You said you have one grow style in one tent and an absolutely entirely different grow style in the other tent. How do you get confident to be able to go from one style to two style, from no styles to two styles?
I mean, you're just continuously learning, right? I started out with bottled nutrients, started out with just Fox Farm nutrients. For the first 6 years, it was just Fox Farm nutrients, Fox Farm soil, HID lighting. And so, like, I've gotten pretty confident over the years to feed in synthetic nutrients, bottled nutrients, whatever you want to call it. And then trying out, getting out of my comfort zone and going to the organic side of things. Just continuous improvement mindset, trying to learn new things and get out of my comfort zone. Not sure if this is kind of the direction you wanted it to go or not, Pigeons, if I'm answering your question or not. But yeah, I mean, just hearing about the benefits of organic over synthetic, because there are some benefits of it, just made me want to try and made me want to do, start out with the organic amendments, add an inoculation of microbes to get those amendments broken down, ready for the plant, to adding in mulch layer, cover crops, it's just kind of step by step, slowly, gradually working my way in to more and more organic techniques. And I think anybody can do it,
What was your sources? Where were you getting your sources from? Like, where was your main area of inspiration?
I mean, when I first started with the bottled nutrients, I had a friend, so a mentor, somebody who grew. I saw those cool looking Fox Farm bottles. Like, oh, what are these? How do you use these? Oh, here, I was obviously a weed fanatic, so kind of picking his brain on how to grow. He taught me, and then I really stumbled across YouTube in like 2013ish, I think it was, and I found out there's so many different ways to grow. I mean, we barely touching on it. We didn't even talk about no-till living soil. We didn't talk about hydroponics. There'd be DWCR, DWC. There's aquaponics. So many different styles. It just opened up my mind. And it's like, okay, I need to do something different. I need to get away from. Let me start with LEDs. Let me go over to LEDs first to get rid of the HID, because I had heat issues. As we all know, HID, can release more heat compared to LED. Generally speaking. And then just kind of improved and did things from there. So that's kind of how I made that transition.
Oh yeah, well, like for me over years, I did the organic run and I liked it. Don't get me wrong, but I don't like all the nasty shit that goes with it. And I know you can go less nasty, but to get the best results, you kind of got to go nasty. I'm not a big fan of worms. Grew up in the city near nasty water, so we didn't fish a whole lot. Like it's not none of my shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not into it. And also, it's more the similar fact for me that I've tried a lot of different cultivars, and I swear the organic run here, there's too many variables even still. I can't just rely on the soil that I have to wait 2 weeks for. I know I could do a tea. I know there's a couple other things I could do, but that's where it's like, all right, well, fuck it. I'm just going to use bottles then. I don't have time. I'm not doing it. I'm done. So just, I don't know, man. I'm not the kind of guy who's going to try too many experiments. I've done it in the past and it slowed my grow down. I did it with DWC for a few years and I had some good results. Don't get me wrong, but summertime came. And the issue that I had with deep water culture was keeping the container cool. I used a 13-gallon current culture, like pre-set up bucket, because it just had everything together in it. I was like, this is tight. I don't got to do anything. It's got nutrients. It's got the fucking hydrogen, everything I need. I just need to put a plant in it and water. Good to go. Worked really well for winter. It was amazing because I was able to keep the water consistency of the temperature perfect, spot on. Summertime came in. I had to buy a chiller. There was no other option. And I didn't want to do that. I was like, man, I'm already pushing electricity. I've got like 6,000 watts going in here. It's going to fucking blow up. There's no way. But my yields were pretty good. I was getting good results. I was using the Lucas formula. I feel like it was a little lackluster in terms of my end product because I wasn't using all the micro and macronutrients, but I was getting good yields. So I was going to stick with that for a while. And the biggest reason I switched over is I kept getting bugs in my soil. Every single time I buy from the grocery store, I was getting aphids or gnats every fucking time. And it was a well-known issue locally where they're like, yeah, man, distributors bringing it in. And I cut it open and there's fucking bugs. It's like every time. I'm like, dude. So I switched to water. I was like, this is the only way. I know there's not going to be any pests in this, so let's do it. Then I learned about cocoa. And that was more where I switched sides and I was like, well, shit, I get some of the benefits of, hydro, but then I'm got soil-ish type of qualities. And that was the transition for me that pushed me over the edge of being done with soil and water and moving to that. And then I tried soil again and I like it, don't get me wrong, but just not really into it, man. Not really into it. I prefer using cocoa and bottled nutrients. I just do.
There's, when talking about DWC and hydroponics in particular, precision by far is just, you got so much more precision when you're controlling, when you're feeding nutrients hydroponically. I think that's, scientists, they use that. Dr. Bruce Bugby, for example, over at Utah State University, they do most of their experience in hydroponics because of the precision they can have. They can dial in, they can feed a certain amount of nitrogen, a certain amount of phosphorus, a certain amount of potassium, and it's being delivered directly to the roots. There's no, it's not like you're in soil or a medium to where you have microbes kind of being the middleman in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
you are the middleman.
it's beneficial to grow DWC, and DWC gets knocked down hard these days by organic growers. And there's so many benefits to growing DWC versus organic, but still you got people who are just like gung-ho organic and
Stuck in
everything
their
else
ways.
sucks,
If you want flavor, don't grow hydro.
Yeah. And honestly,
Yeah, well, my shit tasted dank.
if there's any resilience I've ever had, it's actually from the organic community. And I'm not, this isn't to toss shade. I'm not trying to divide. It's just
Shots fired.
when they're the ones that are the biggest critics when it comes to, just bottled nutrients in general. And I don't hear, maybe it's because I only use bottled nutrients that I don't hear people, so hardcore about bottled nutrients. All I use is bottled nutrients, but I can see and understand the appreciation for organic,
For sure.
but I can see and appreciate the simplicity and the benefits of using bottles. Like I just don't understand why one has to be better than the other, because I can guarantee you that we could grow two weeds. Okay, I'll do it my way, they'll do it their way, and then we'll mix the bud up, and then I'm going to ask you which one of these was grown organically and which one of these was grown synthetically. You got a 50-50 chance, but are you going to get it right based on your ability to determine through the smoke, the taste, and the smell? I don't believe so. And I've smoked organic weed, and it's just like, I don't
see what the high. It's the same.
I can
difference
tell
in
the
my book.
difference between outdoor and indoor weed.
Yes.
Okay, and then there's shots fired. Bow, bow, bow. is, you can not only smell, taste, the difference. You can see the difference. You can just see the difference of outdoor grown weed. And I'm not talking greenhouse. I'm not talking supplemental light. I'm just talking outdoor weed. So, you know, I don't buy into the argument that there is one way that's better than the other when it comes to the two of them. We've kind of touched on this in previous episodes.
Well, the only argument is just like I see in the Twitch chat here is literally sustainability. 100%. That's
Absolutely 100%. That's
100%
a
the
very
argument.
valid point.
Sustainability, better for the
Very.
earth, better overall. 100%. You can reuse this
Yeah.
stuff. It's going to be more cost effective.
And you can
There's like,
integrate like your compost. Your
yeah,
your waste as a human being
you
can
could
be
doo-doo in that. No,
integrated
don't do
and
that.
and urinating in there as well. So it's like, right? Yeah. For some reason, I could taste a bit of urine.
Yeah, it's got a cat pissy kind
A
of
little urine on the tongue. It's cat piss. Yes,
Now-
sir. Just take a little more.
And I think my whole point of wanting to do this episode was to emphasize the fact that there's no wrong fucking way. You can have an opinion, but when your opinion becomes harsh and disrespectful, that's when it's a hindrance, man. I didn't try organics for years because people were assholes about it. And when somebody is smug about something, I'm just like, fuck you.
Mhm.
I'm going to show you then. And I did with my buddies before I even knew Gavin. Well, Gavin wasn't growing. I've known him for a long time. But before then, we were smoking whatever the fuck we had. We both grew the, what was it? Grandmaster Kush. And his first run has turned out very comparable to mine. I was like, damn, dude. And then he told me how he did it. And at the first run was complicated. I was like, fuck that, bro. And then the second and third run, he's like, oh, yeah, it's the same soil. No, I just top fed it. I'm like, what? So you're not putting that in the backyard? You just took this and you did what enzymes for the roots? What? And that's when I decided to try it. Because I'm like, oh, well, he broke it down in a humble, educational way. He explained the benefits. And I'm like, oh, well, this is really cool. Now I understand why somebody would do it. I see the benefits here. And then I can explain the benefits on bottle where somebody would be like, oh, yeah, I can see where, it's just like whatever martial arts you decide. It doesn't make it fucking wrong unless you're doing Wing Chun.
And you need to take your life into consideration. When you're choosing a grow style, you got to take into consideration your environment. Chris is in a much different environment than I am, being in the desert, being in the north. So naturally, we're gonna have to. I might have to work towards heating my climate more often. He's got to work to cooling his climate more often. That's something to definitely take into consideration. Your budget, man. It's like, how much money do you have? Are you really gonna go and set up an entire DWC, drip feeds, whatever? Like I couldn't afford it when I first started out. There was no way. So it's like, maybe that's something that you need to take into consideration as well. And then, like, what does your lifestyle involve? Do you live in an apartment? Do you live in a house? Are you with roommates? Because this is really going to determine your growth style. Are they going to be able to help you? Are they going to be in the way? Do you have the space?
Can you carry in bundles of soil up the fucking stairs to your apartment where you're not supposed to grow at?
Right. These are things that you need to take into consideration.
The time, yeah. How often do you work? That was a big reason why I was like, fuck, I'm about to just do organic and auto feed, man. Like, this is tight. Like, I don't even got to get near the garden. But honestly, it's so less fulfilling.
Right.
Auto watering with organics, like, I'm just like, I feel like a fucking cash cropper. Like, I'm not even
It's
down.
mostly hands off. You're just training.
100%
Training
hands
at
off,
that point is mostly right. You're not mixing up nutrients. You're not checking pH or ppm.
Just walking around and like.
But not all of us, not everyone that grows and is in our scenario are 30-year-old men that want to be hands-on, that can afford to put a little bit of their back into it. Some of these people are elders. Maybe they're sick. They don't have the ability to move anything. They don't have anything.
Yeah,
you can't move anything.
example.
These fucking things of soil. I'm fully capable. Some things aside, male, and I struggle with those fucking cubic things of Pro Mix. I grab a cart and I got to push it through Canadian Tire. But it's like, not everybody can do that. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody has the ability to solder things or plumb things so there's a million different variables, and I can't wait for that shirt. So
it's gonna happen. I got to talk to the designer.
It's coming. It'll be out soon. But yeah, these are things that you need to take into consideration. And of course, I'm asking you in the chat too, because as three guys, we have a lot in common as the three of us sit on this panel. We have a lot.
Chris doesn't have glasses. The only thing he's missing.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I'm taller than both of these guys. So unfortunately, we have that in don't have that in common. But we're curious what your growth style is. Because whether you're big, you're small, you're young, you're old, you're able, you're not, it's going to really play into the style that you choose for you. And we're curious, how have you chosen a style? What style is it? And what keeps you on that style? For me, I probably won't branch out. You guys do so much branching out and learning new things, and it's not that I'm not learning new things, but I'm
You
learning
like what you're
more.
doing.
It works, right? And I'm really in the mentality of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I'll tweak things here and there, adding a tent, adding a scrog, trying to push my nutrients here and there. But generally speaking, I keep rather consistent with the way that I grow, because I've trialed, I've erred, I've failed, I've stumbled, and I've risen to this point where it's like, okay, I got it. It's like, back away slowly,
Just let it go. Let
let
it
it
grow.
go, let it grow. Yeah. So
You know? I love it,
everyone's
man.
gonna be different.
Yeah, well, if you're over here on Twitch, stick around. We ain't going nowhere. If you're watching on YouTube or listening somewhere else, we appreciate you. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Big shout out again to our sponsors, Dutchpro USA, AC Infinity, and Spider Farmer. If you're watching on YouTube, description has all these fire-ass discount codes that are larger than I realized.
Right.
Big shout out to them. It's crazy. 15%. It's fucking nuts. Where's the
Mhm.
margins? But with that being said,
Hit that like button,
Rob from
guys.
CLtv, Mr. Grow It, Pigeon 420. Everybody else, we'll see you next time.